Guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 73 today. And of course, as I always say, we've got a lot to talk about. We'll be covering the injuries over the weekend at the start of it. We're also going to be taking a look at some concussion news that has been released today on a Monday. And we'll also be taking a bit of a deep dive at Collingwood and where they're at the moment. Of course, our AFL tips and AFL fantasy towards the end of the pod. So guys, let's roll the intro and get straight into the new episode. And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dankos to get the pies home! He's done it! So back into the team this week is my brother Jack with me, as he goes every, fortnight or so now? So,
Yeah, well,
unfortunately you got a job, which is just so crap.
yeah, so we're not earning enough money here. So.
Yeah, guys, so it's really all your fault. That's what you were saying. I didn't say that. That's what my brother said. Anyway, big week of footy over the weekend. Probably bigger. I think the tips are going to be very interesting. We'll talk about them in a little bit later. But this week's round is going to really decide a lot of things. I think.
I think pretty much every game, at least one team's fighting for a final spot really at the moment.
Yeah, and I think all those games going on the week coming is also not only that, but I think almost all of them are not 50-50, but every single team has a chance.
Yeah, there's always the chance these days. If you don't put up the pressure, then...
Yeah, I think you're definitely a chance of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been one of the... I mean, I know a lot of people have said this has been the best season we've had in a long time. I mean, I'm not saying it's just because the Swans have done so well this year, but I think it has been a very good season of footy.
Yeah, it's been very hard to predict some games that you just...
So many games have been, decided by less than a goal, or have been, underdog teams have been able to win, and, teams, who started really poorly at the start of the season, like Hawthorn and Brisbane, have came out of nowhere, and honestly could be... Hawthorn could be a finals chance. Brisbane could even go win the flag from here.
Yeah, they could.
They go win the flag.
From 2 months ago being 13th or something.
Yeah, 13th and looking dreadful.
Yeah.
And even teams like Collingwood, who everyone thought was probably going to maybe not go back to back, but definitely be up there. They've been down the bottom. They're down towards 13th now. So that's why it's the best season ever for a lot of people.
I think momentum's really been the spotlight in a lot of games this year. Where they can just take that.
Yeah. So let's quickly go to the injuries, just covering it over the weekend. So unfortunately we don't have any news of the Swans players so far, but of course if you didn't see the Swans game or didn't see the review this week, the Swans had 2 injuries, definitely, and then Will Hayward's a bit of a question mark. But Dane Rampy with a calf, it could be, you're imagining 3 or 4 weeks, and Tom Papley could be anything.
Being in the moon boot's not the best sign.
Yeah, he's one of the most important players for the Swans because Sydney's depth, especially for small forward pressure forwards, is quite slim.
Yeah.
So Sam Wicks will probably come into the team for Sydney, but that's a real concern for them going forward. Looking at other more confirmed news of injuries, the first one is a pretty substantial one for St Kilda, not so much for their season, but St Kilda speedster and Liam Henrys will undergo knee surgery and miss the rest of the 2024 season. So that's really unfortunate because he had a really good start to the season for the Saints, then got an injury, I think it was a hamstring. He missed about 6 weeks, came back, and now he suffered a knee injury and missed the rest of the season. So he's one of the few players for the Saints that brings some run and dash, so it's really unfortunate for the Saints.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if he played most of the season, because he can be that match winner that the St Kilda probably could have needed for most of the...
Yeah, they've been able to win a couple of games. The last 3 or 4 weeks or so, they've looked a lot better. So he's definitely a big loss for them. On to Adelaide, Nick Murray has avoided suffering a serious knee injury, which is good to see because he did miss out the majority of last year with a ACL, so that's good. Unknown if he will play this week, but Jordan Butts has been sidelined in that game with a foot issue and is likely to miss the majority of the season, likely to miss the rest of the season. I think he's going to go to surgery, might as well. Crows pretty much. They're not going to make finals. I think that's pretty much fair enough.
They're pretty much done,
Yeah, even though they beat Essendon, which, I feel like we'll talk about Essendon in a minute, just a little bit, but, the Crows did have a lot of injuries in that game, and Jordan Dawson was confirmed to have concussion, So he will miss this game coming up. So a little bit annoying for me as owner of him of AFL Fantasy, but still. Moving to Carlton, a couple of injury concerns from their game. First of all, it does seem that Carlton, Harry Mackay, has been cleared of concussion. Somehow.
He literally was on the... I didn't see that much of it, but he did get up and he was wobbly, wasn't he?
I'll have to watch it again, but I'll give him the benefit of that.
But it did take him like 3 or 4 minutes to take him off the field to do the HIA.
Well, it's pretty easy to say he's cleared of concussion after the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, Blake Acres is a bit of a sweating on him for the fitness of next game up against Port Adelaide, and then the big blow, which is Tom De Koning. It does seem that he's going to miss the rest of the home and away season as he requires surgery on a fractured foot, which is surprising because everyone was saying it was he was in the hospital for a punctured lung, so a little bit of different body parts.
Like completely.
Maybe the foot fracture flipped up and hit him in the lung or something. I don't know, but he's going to miss the rest of the home and away season, and will be assessed more on the pre-finals bye. So that's massive because he's had a great year, Tom De Koning, especially when he's become the sole ruck for the Blues.
Yeah.
So for their sake, hopefully they do get their players back. But it's interesting to talk about them and the Swans. Obviously, those two have been pretty much the heavyweights for the majority of at least the last 2 months, I would say. And now suddenly both teams are starting to get some injuries rack up. I think Carlton have always had a couple of injuries on their list, so they've always been a bit of a concern. The Swans have been very healthy throughout the whole year, and in the space of 2 weeks, they've had Rowbottom, McInerney, Papley, Rampy, and potentially Haywood as well.
Yeah.
So Sydney's depth, I wouldn't say it'd be tested just yet because I do think they've got the depth in their VFL side, but it will be tested if we see more injuries come through. Now, there is also some Fremantle news on Luke Jackson. There's no concerns about him, who he did finish the game under an injury cloud, but just suffered a cork thigh, so he should be fine for the derby, which, let's be honest, if Fremantle don't win that's pretty embarrassing. I know they lost the last one, but they won't lose this one.
No, surely.
And then the big one on the Fremantle game, which was Alex Pearce. Justin Longmuir after the game did say he was sore, the game was done, so they thought to just sub him out as a precautionary, but he will go for scans and they'll go from there. He is a little bit nervous and also a little bit frustrated as well. So if you don't know, he missed, I think, 3 weeks or so with a fractured foot and arm. Whatever, same thing at this point. No, fractured arm. He got injured again against Melbourne and seems like he may have done the same injury. So at this stage, there's 5 more weeks before the finals. You would assume, I would knock on wood, Fremantle making finals at this stage. It's pretty hard to say because if you say, I mean, it's not Essendon, but I said a couple of weeks ago that Essendon will be making finals, and now they're fucking languishing in 8th spot with a shit percentage.
Yeah.
So I would say Fremantle will be making finals this year, but if they're gonna, even potentially, I don't think they're a flag contender at the moment. I think in the next couple of years they can be, but if they want to be somewhat of a contender this year, he has to be there for the finals.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's okay. But talking about the concussion stuff that we saw over the weekend, Mitch Cleary is reporting the AFL has confirmed that they will issue a please explain letters to the Adelaide Crows in relation to Jordan Dawson, Brisbane in relation to Harris Andrews, and Harry Mackay to Carlton, of course, for the management of the respective concussion management protocols. Now, Jordan, you watched the Crows game a lot more than me. Jordan Dawson was concussed, came back onto the field in the 4th quarter, played about 5 minutes, is that right? And then he went off.
Yeah, I think he got another head knock to his head, I think after a tackle.
Yeah.
He performed, and he got his head, I think, hit the Essendon player as he tackled, and that's what re-aggravated the concussion.
Yeah.
And, well, that's what
I guess it's
saying.
fair enough.
That's what they're going to say, so they can get away with it.
Now, I watched the Swans game and Harris Andrews. I mean, I'm not going to go and sit here and say, oh, well, fucking, they just brought him on because they needed him. I didn't actually see him get the head knock, to be honest. I don't remember the head knock, so I can't say with certainty that he got a massive hit and he just came on because they needed him. I'm not going to say that by any means. But interesting that they are going to be issuing a please explain to 3 different clubs over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, this year I have been pretty adamant in saying that the AFL and the teams have been pretty good. If there's a head knock, most of the time they don't come back onto the field. I don't know if it should get to the point of if your head gets knocked, you get immediately ruled out. I don't want it to be that.
No.
But I mean, it is very interesting when players do come back onto the field, especially with ones when players look extremely wobbly. on their feet. And we obviously saw, was it Port Adelaide was it last year when Elia? Or was it
it was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was last year.
Yeah, last year when Port Adelaide got a huge fine, $50,000. Was it 10? It was 50,000. I'm pretty sure, because
I think it was 10, but then it was add-ons and shit. I think I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't remember. Don't quote us, but anyway, I'm pretty sure that Port Adelaide did get a massive fine.
Yeah.
So on the concussion stuff, and teams been starting to take it a little bit more seriously. I still don't really understand though why the AFL are so against having an independent doctor to judge what's wrong here.
Yeah.
Because I know the club doctors obviously know a lot more about the players, but surely they can still be there as a consultant.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone... I think people who are asking for an independent doctor, they're not saying that you can't have the regular doctor around. Because he can give you information. Doctors obviously trade notes and stuff to say, okay, well, here's blah, 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 information traded, and then they can both make an adequate decision. Because then at least... Let's say, for example, the doctor of one team and the independent doctor have differing opinions. Then maybe one overrules the other. That's fine. But at least then we have two differing opinions. Because the doctor, at the end of the day, if it's a big game and the coach says, look, can you just sneak it under the rug? Not saying this happens. I don't want to get sued. Allegedly, this happens. But I'm sure there would be a way that a team would be like, we need him on the field.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's been pretty well policed in a way this season. But we're coming to the pointy end now.
Yeah, exactly.
We're coming to the pointy end. This is when teams like, if Harris Andrews goes down, do Sydney win that game? If Harry Mackay goes down,
do North Melbourne
steal that game? If Dawson goes down to begin with,
do Essendon win that
game? Do Essendon win that game? Because if you look in that game as well, Caldwell went off as well for HIA, but he was subbed out because of the fact that it took him 20 minutes, and he would have been. I think there would have been like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, so they ruled him out anyway. Which he actually passed his concussion test. But also, that's interesting that one's not mentioned though.
Yeah.
So interesting that's not going to be looked at by Essendon, because he passed it.
So yeah,
I guess he didn't return to the field, unlike Mackay, who I believe did at one point.
Yeah.
He did, and Jordan Dawson did for a period, and so did Harris Andrews. So I guess that's why they're probably not looking at Caldwell. But the thing is, he would have returned to the field if this was in the like the mid part of the second quarter.
Yeah. For
Caldwell. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the AFL is going to do. I think it has been very well done this year. I'm very surprised. Well, the one suspension that I don't agree with very much, I think we were streaming this, the Maynard hit on Ginnivan, that was given us a fine.
Yeah. Very
interesting. Now, I understand that it's different to the Isaac Heaney one, but I think
that, to be honest, I think that's more intentional than Heaney's one.
Yeah.
I really do, but I don't believe, to be honest, I don't think either of them really should have been a fine. I get that Maynard one, but I don't think it's a fine, because I see that so much often that they give it a high. It was a high offend. So
you don't think it should have been a fine or a
no? I don't think it should have been. I really don't.
Oh, okay. I'm a differing opinion. I think he probably should have either. I'm okay with the fine, looking at it, but I wouldn't have been disappointed with the week, because I feel like the intention was there to hit him. But on the other side of it, Ginnivan did drop his legs a little bit. So it's swings and roundabouts, I guess. But speaking of Collingwood, let's move on to them, because I did want to talk about them today. And I've been saving this for a couple of weeks, because I didn't want to just go out and just go bag Collingwood, because, there'd be a bunch of people in the comments saying, oh, they're going to bounce back, they're fine. And look, maybe they will, but there's been 4 straight losses in a row now. They are on the brink of missing finals. I feel like if this is any other team in the comp, we would have written them off already.
Yeah.
But they are sitting 13th spot on the ladder. They have the worst percentage of the teams around them in the Gold Coast Suns are on the same wins. So they sit just below the Gold Coast Suns, and below them are the teams that have been out for a while now. The Crows, St Kilda, West Coast, North, and then Richmond. So they're sitting in that pack, basically. They're sitting in the bottom 6.
Yeah.
So there has to be question marks here. Now, I'm not going to call for a job here, obviously. I'm not going to say Craig McRae deserves to get sacked because he won the premiership last year. I'm not going to go to that point. I'm not going to say that Darcy Moore should be dropped to the VFL. I feel like there's a lot more issues at play than just Darcy Moore here. So I looked at it a little bit. A lot of people have questioned Collingwood's depth. And I think that should be an interesting point to bring up because obviously they won the grand final last year. Players who were playing, and those certain players in that team were playing roles a lot better than like just playing for themselves. I think Tom Mitchell's a great example of that. Last year, obviously, when he was a couple of years ago when he was playing for Hawthorn, it felt like a lot more of the time that he was looking for disposals more than impact. He was having 35 possessions per game, but I remember the game, we went to this was like 5 or 6 years ago now, but he was still at Hawthorn. He had that game when he had 51 or 54 possessions or something against Collingwood.
Yeah.
And me and you looked at each other and looked at that stat, we were like, wow, we didn't even notice him on the field half the time. We noticed that he was getting touches, but nowhere in hell 54. Compared to someone like, going way back at the Gold Coast with like Gary Ablett. When he had a 50 plus possession game, you knew he had 50 possessions.
Yeah.
When Tom Mitchell had it, it felt like he was having no impact. But last year, players like him, McQuarrie, Ginnivan when he was there, Hill, Quaynor, players, not the top of the top, but they were playing their role immensely. Now, Quaynor was probably a little bit out of that because he's one of the best small defenders in the comp. But those sort of players were playing their roles, and that all those role players combining with the superstars of the Goey and Dacos and that made them even better and, eventually got them to a flag. But this year, a lot of those role players aren't playing well. Looking at their depth and that, obviously it was tested towards the middle parts of the start of the year at Collingwood because of all the injuries they had. But looking at the injury list right now, you've got Aiden Bigg out for the rest of the year, so put a line through him. Mason Cox could be back next week.
He did play the VFL this week.
Yeah. Charlie Dean, he's going to be 1 to 2 weeks. He could be back. Josh Eyre is a test, so he could be back next week. Bo McQuarrie's out for the 1 to 2. This was last week, so he should be back. Brody Myercheck, he's out probably for the rest of the minor rounds. Tom Mitchell's in Please Explain, who knows. Jacob Ryan, he's got 1 week, so could be back in the VFL. Lockie Schultz, 1 to 2 weeks, he could be back. And then Oscar Steen. So looking at that, honestly, there's 5 players here that could make their best 23. You got Mason Cox, you got Bo McQuarrie, he's straight in, Brody Myercheck, it's Tom Mitchell, and Lockie Schultz. So, basically. I'm saying that, and obviously Tom Mitchell and Myercheck you got to rule out because they're not back in this team anytime soon. So McQuarrie, he makes them better. Lockie Schultz, at his best, is a great player. He hasn't been that this year, but give him some time, I would say. And the Mason Cox,
it depends on who they play. I think will
if
better
Mason
for their structure.
But also, I think that he has to play now because Myercheck's not there.
Yeah.
He has to be there for height in their forward line because they do struggle without him. Although McStay being back, he played okay last week against Hawthorn at times. Yeah. He looked pretty good. He was taking some good marks in his first game back. But all those injuries at the start of the year when you had like the likes of the Goey out, all these sort of players that were out and weren't having an impact, a lot of them have returned, but they've lost 4 games in a row now. So, you can't say that McQuarrie coming back, Schultz coming back, and Cox coming back, even though they are 3 forwards of theirs, that's not going to win them the game. That wasn't winning them for Hawthorn on the weekend. Let's just say that.
Their midfield got dominated in that game.
Yeah, exactly. And Nick Dacos, even though he wasn't tagged, he didn't have a massive game either.
No.
So you got to put it on him as well. He's not playing that good of football at the moment. The likes of Josh Dacos, who had a career... Well, he won the Breast and Ferris last year, even though Nick Dacos nearly won the Brownlow. He's pretty down this year. Probably hasn't had his best season. If I'm looking at players that have had a good... a better year than what they did last year, is there really a lot? I couldn't really tell you. I couldn't... No one jumps out the page. Honestly, if I thought about it, maybe Quaynor's had as good a year. I think he's been pretty good. I don't think he's been beaten many times. He did play on Jeremy Cameron a couple of weeks ago, which I think was just a bad call. That's not needed. But I think it does have to be questioned because you can look at like a couple of players that they've let go in previous years. You look at like Treloar a couple of years ago, even Taylor Adams last year, and Jack Ginnivan. They're letting go of these players and they haven't really replaced them. Other than, you do say Lockie Schultz replaced Ginnivan, but obviously Schultz, who's 27, Ginnivan's 22, 21.
21, 22, yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah.
So they're obviously different age brackets, but Ginnivan's playing better. Now, you can make 2 sides of the coin of this. Also, Collingwood kicked him out, but also he was pretty undisciplined at times, and I mean, even before the grand final, the day before, he was at the races. So you can look at it both ways. But end of the day, on form alone, Ginnivan's been better this year.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. So you can sit there and say, oh, well, you know, Lachie Schultz can come into some form. Yeah, well, right now you're sitting 13th on the ladder. You can't kick a goal and your defence is struggling. So what are you going to do? So I also looked a bit at their depth that's currently in the VFL team. So on the weekend, they played the Carlton VFL side and got pretty well beaten. So you got Schultz and McQuarrie coming back in the next couple of weeks, and probably Mason Cox as well, you would expect. But looking at their other players in their VFL side, not a lot really jump out. Now, they did get beaten, but if you're looking at it right now, you got on the weekend Bytel, who's St Kilda... I was going to say a reject. I wouldn't say that. He got delisted. He got picked up by them. He had 31 touches. He was their best player on the weekend. Finlay McRae, 21 touches. Why is he not playing in the team? He needs to be there. He wasn't a top draft pick, but he was in the top 20 when they picked him. How is he not getting in this team? So that's another concern. They got Jaff. He was okay. He had about 18 touches, but there's not much else there. And obviously in the draft last year, they only used 2 picks. They picked up Dematia and they picked up Jaff. Sorry if I pronounced that name wrong. So, and Dematia, he's been a pretty high prospect. He was picked 25, but he's yet to debut. So why not give him a go?
Yeah.
So that's an option. Lachie Sullivan came in this year. He's been okay. Hasn't exactly lit it on fire. Charlie Dean's been okay when he's been in the side at times, but there's not a lot of depth there to use. So what do they do next? They won a premiership last year, so you can't say they're on a rebuild by no means. Is it a reset, or is it a we overachieved last year? I don't know. I don't want to sound too clickbaity and say they overachieved last year, because they won the premiership, and most people like me thought they were going to go back it up.
Yeah.
So what would you say? What do you think for Collingwood?
I think they're just confused at the moment. Like, yeah, they've got a few injuries, but you're looking at... Like, let's just look at the recent game. They, at the start of the fourth quarter, they chucked Darcy Moore in the ruck for, like, 2 centre bounces. Then they chucked him back. Then they chucked... the last couple of weeks, they tried Jeremy Howe up forward. Didn't work. And their connection between midfield to forward line is horrible the last couple of weeks. And because they got so smashed against Hawthorn, their defence could do nothing, because the fact is that they've got no pressure coming from the midfield.
Yeah. So
they just waltzed it through, and I don't know. Like, besides what's Markov bringing to this team? Speed.
To be fair though, that was a shocking game. Like, I mean, I understand that like it was a bad game for him, but I feel like he's a better player than that. He was bad on the weekend. I'm not taking that away from him, but if you're taking his best game and his worst game out of the equation, do you think that his decent game, do you think it's more on the lower side, or do you think it's like in the grand final and the couple of finals that he played, he was really good. But where's his form? Is his form down below? Like, if you're looking at, like, best was, like, grand final sort of era, like, 10, and then you're looking at, like, that game on the weekend against Hawthorn was down at the 1, like, a rating. That was a dreadful game from him. Where does he sit?
I think he's only... Like, if they bring up those players again, I don't think he makes that team. I really don't.
What if you bring in, like, McQuarrie, Yeah.
I think...
So, I mean, he's obviously been a bit of a journeyman, but... I mean, we're not obviously not putting it all on Oleg Markov, but he is like a depth player. He didn't play well on the weekend.
He's that role player that he played last year.
Yeah.
But he's not doing it at the moment.
Yeah.
And you're looking at players like Syl Sidebottom, Pendlebury, all your old players. Is it time to move them on?
Well, the thing is, Pendlebury is so relied on still. Sidebottom... I still think he's relied on a lot as well, but he's still playing off a wing. I mean,
well, you're looking at it like in that game. D'Ambrosio was nearly their best player on the field.
Yeah,
he's got so much pace because he's so young.
Yeah,
well, he's younger than Syl Sidebottom.
And he's also a lethal left foot kick.
And the Sidebottom, will he give you run? Like, if you're going to be honest here, you move Markov onto the wing, and you take Sidebottom out.
You put him in the VFL.
If you want to get some run.
Yeah.
and you get Moquiri into the midfield.
I still think that, I mean, maybe they are, I think they are a little bit over-reliant on their older players. I think that I mean, look, it's hard to say for them, because I think a lot of the time they're playing Pendlebury and Sidebottom in those areas because they want to obviously go for winning games. And you're not going to say that they got to go with youth at the moment. You wouldn't say like a Richmond or a North or even like teams down below who would pick youth players over experience because, there's no point in like, you might as well give some kids some games. Collingwood aren't at that stage. But why are they playing in pivotal roles here? Surely I mean, if you're going to give the thing of like North Melbourne and you're giving Sheasel like 45 touches off the half back line and doing nothing, getting junk possessions, Collingwood can't even transfer the football. I would play off the half back line Scotty Pendlebury and Sidebottom and don't leave the wing, because wing roles, especially now, are one of the most important roles in a team. So you got to play someone there who can do that role, and maybe they don't have that at the moment, but even if you chuck Bobby Hill off the wing for a bit, or even, I know that Darcy Moore's been thrown everywhere. He's a pretty athletic player. We've seen tall players in the past play well off the wing. Give him a go off of there. I mean, that would be another option. I know that's a bit far-fetched, but they're using Sidebottom, Pendlebury in the midfield. It feels like a little bit too much.
Yeah.
They're relying too much on these guys. And I'm not saying they should retire, because I still think they offer a lot to the team. But surely you could chuck them off of half-back and they can use their foot skills to work. Yeah. Because they're both great kicks of the footy. They've both got the footy smarts, obviously. They've played over, 600 games of experience between the both of them? Nearly 700? So give them some run off of half-back. I feel like using them off of wings and chucking them into the centre bounce. Why isn't Josh Dacos going through the centre bounces as much? Why is he not given a go in there? I mean, his brother's good enough. And, Josh's body would probably be a little bit bigger, considering he's older. Chuck him through the middle. Give him a go.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just throwing shit at the wall. Maybe something would stick, but we're just two fucking goobers sitting in the room. We're not exactly experts or anything, but it just looks like that at the moment. They need to do something a little bit different. And, like you said, with Darcy Moore, playing him in the centre half, playing him in the full back, where he played okay on the weekend, then you chucked him in the ruck in the last quarter when the game was gone. Yeah. And then you chuck him. They did chuck him forward for, I think, a couple of efforts, and then he went back again.
Yeah.
So what's the point? I mean, chuck him off a wing if you have to. Like, it seems like he's got a pretty good tank. Chuck him off a wing, like, Nick Riewoldt style. Give him a go on there, see what happens. It's very hard for a wingman to match up on him, especially if it does go between the arcs. I don't know. That may be an idea, but
they just look all at sea, and they're done. I'd be shocked if they make the finals from here, because
even if they did, do they do anything?
I'm getting annoyed that at 3/4 time they're like, oh well, they're down. They'll come back. They haven't done it all season. Yeah. Why do we keep bringing it up?
Yeah.
Like, that was 2 years. That's the last 2 years. Yeah, that's what they did. Not this year.
Yeah.
Hawthorn were like, let's just put the foot down.
Yeah.
And they won by 11 goals.
Yeah. And I mean, Hawthorn have been brilliant, but they shouldn't be losing by 11 goals to Hawthorn.
No. Like we said, it could have been the second best game of the round.
Yeah.
Behind the Swans game. And it was one of the shittest games of the season.
The only thing I will say is, though, Hawthorn are one of the best teams to watch right now.
Yeah.
That was such an exciting game of footy to watch on Hawthorn's side. When the ball was in Collingwood's possession, it was boring, it was fucking lethargic, it was crap. Hawthorn, as soon as they got the footy forward, I was excited. I wanted to see what they could do. Maybe it was a bit of the Jack Ginnivan factor, but I was excited to see them. Now, a little bit on Essendon. I think they're getting swept under the rug a bit this week, because Collingwood's taken the fair brunt of it, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But Essendon, looks like it's going to happen again.
It's another. If they don't make the finals this year, to be honest, I don't know if they actually win a final if they the way they're playing at the moment.
Well, they won't play at Marvel Stadium, so they have to play on the MCG. So they would like under the roof.
They could go to the Giants Stadium.
Why?
Well, if they play the Giants in the elimination final.
Oh, well, even so. Oh, well, So, I mean, I don't even think they get a home final. So, if they get an away final, I feel like at this point, I think Melbourne, Collingwood, Essendon, those three teams especially, if they were to scrape into the 8, I feel like they're making up the numbers.
I think you're looking at the table now, the only change I think happens is that the Bulldogs make it and Essendon drop.
Yeah.
I think that's the only change.
Well, I mean, I think if the Bulldogs do make it, we've seen the best of them outside the top bottom, inside the 8, which is when they won against the Flag in 2016. But there's been a few years as well where they've scraped in and then have just literally made up the numbers. So, but I think this year if they got in there, it would be really good to see.
Yeah.
Do Port Adelaide make up the numbers if they make the 8?
Well, to be honest, yes. Their next 5 matches to finish the season will show a lot. It's either the Bulldogs will make it, but it's probably going to be either Essendon or Port Adelaide that drop.
Yeah.
Because Port Adelaide's run's not good.
Yeah. I've noticed though, a lot of the teams, I think it's how even the season has been. Because there is 13 teams in the comp that can win a game, and even looking at it, North Melbourne been good. St Kilda have been able to, they jagged a win against the Swans.
Yeah.
And even the Crows have, at their best, their attacking best, they beat Essendon. So I think 16 teams, if you play any of the 16 teams right now, other than Richmond, and even Richmond played okay against Port Adelaide for 3 quarters, and West Coast, who are probably the worst team right now, other than those 2 teams, if you're playing anyone else, there's a chance of someone else jagging a win.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's how even the season has been. Essendon, I think it definitely got flown under the radar this week, and I think they'll probably get away with it. But if they go and lose to St Kilda, they will definitely they'll get the spotlight on them. But moving on, we'll get to our fan favourite segment, of course. The Flog of the Week is back for another week. So, of course, if you don't know, whoever's been the biggest asshole in the media sometimes goes to a player. I think it went to you one week, didn't it? Yeah, because you called Alex Pearce a shit defender. Yeah, that was deserved, by the way. We've obviously, most of the time, it's to a reporter or someone in the AFL media. But this week, I don't know if they're a part of the AFL media, but they are a part of the media in general. And they are a Collingwood supporter, which already gets you a couple of votes on the... No, it doesn't. All right, it doesn't matter if you're a Collingwood supporter or who you support or whatever, on the Flog of the Week. But a lady by the name of Jo Hall, a Channel 9 reporter, is this week's Flog of the Week. So congratulations to her. Probably the first time she's ever been mentioned in anything in her life. So what she has done this week is something that a lot of Collingwood fans are doing, and it's something that is so hypocritical of how they were last year. So what happened was, obviously on the weekend, if you've been in your coma for the last weekend, I'll let you know, Jack Ginnivan had a career best game against his old team. And his antics were a bit over the top, maybe, I would say. I thought they were hilarious. But I understand that people would say that as people who are not who hate Collingwood. And say, oh, it's funny now because he's a Collingwood. But if he was doing this the other way around, they would hate him.
Yeah.
I did sort of warm up to him last year as he was doing it because I didn't mind the personality. I think I mentioned it a few times on the podcast. Even though I didn't really like it, I'm not going to say I was a Jack Ginnivan fan. But end of the day, they pushed him out last year.
Yeah.
So you can't be that disappointed about what happens now. So they pushed him out. That's what happened. Now, yes, you can look about your culture. You can say, yes, he did some things off field. But at the end of the day, on the field right now, his form, better than Collingwood in their forward line. So Jack Ginnivan got up to a bit of antics on the weekend, and Jo Hall decided to tweet out as a Collingwood fan, what a smart-ass Jack Ginnivan is. We were beaten by a way better team, but his behaviour is disgraceful. Did you realise he played in a Collingwood jumper last year, and you were so... the hate that you had for other people booing him, getting angry at him, but now he's in a different jumper, and all of a sudden... Oh, what? Jack Ginnivan? I hate him because he made fun of me. What are you talking about? You can't have a go at him when he's making and that's I thought was hilarious as well when he was doing the sleeping thing in front of the Collingwood cheer squad and they all started booing at him. Get over yourself. Fucking, you were so angry at everyone last year for booing him every time he touched the footy, and this year, obviously, I get he's at another club, but. He was there at the flag. He was a factor in your flag. So he got you there. People are saying now, that Collingwood gifted him a flag. Oh, alright, bro. Yeah, whatever. I mean, he was in your team. Yeah. He was playing good footy last year. He did have a bit of a downer year compared to the year in 2022. He was better that year. But last year, he was still in your best team in the last game. I mean, it was in front of the likes of Taylor Adams, who didn't make the team. But yeah, of course, he was just filling in everyone else. By the way, Billy Frampton had one touch in that fucking game, but he's still a premiership hero.
Yeah.
But Jack Ginnivan's, fucking, we gifted you one. We gifted you a medal.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Anyway, I just think, and this is the big part of it, and this is, because she's a part of the media as well, this person. Stop trying to take the personality out of the players in this game.
Yeah.
Are you, like right now, like we went to the game when it was at Adelaide Oval, when Jack Ginnivan was near the ball, it brought atmosphere to the game. Like, and the Ginnivan factor or the personality factor of him is bringing people to games, is getting people excited to talk about the footy. So, taking away the personality of him and making him act like a fucking robot, I don't want that. I don't think most people do either. Like, yes, he can be over the top at times. And maybe he goes a bit too far at times. But, and look, at the moment, the Hawks haven't beaten the Swans, and he hasn't had a big game. So I'm not really angry at him at the moment. I'm sitting from the sidelines with a smile on my face saying, this is hilarious, and we love to see it. If he plays against the Swans, has a good game, and has a go at us, maybe I'll hate him a bit more. Maybe I'll be on your side, Collingwood fans. But at this stage, and look, I don't think I would. I mean, maybe I wouldn't like him at that moment, which is fine. But I wouldn't then go on Twitter and have a go at him for his behaviour.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, his behaviour was a bit of a, whatever. How about his form on the field? He had 31 touches, career best game, and wiped your team across the fucking floor. So maybe, what are you talking about his behaviour? His behaviour with the footy was fucking immense. He was a great game from him. And maybe as well, Sam Mitchell's seeing a lot more of a impact that he can have. The highest amount of disposals I think he had is 20-odd touches for Collingwood.
He had that once.
Yeah. And 2 times this year, he's had over 20 touches. One being that game where he had 31 touches. I think it was 11 score involvements, 2 goals.
Yeah.
He was great on the weekend. So let's give him some fucking credit. Because, look, if he was doing all this and he was playing shit, by all means, you can have a go at him. But he's playing good footy. And I don't want to see someone lose their personality around the ground because some fucking losers are bloody having a go at him. And I think it's very funny as well because he's just responded to all of it, just having a laugh at it.
Yeah.
He's done it a couple of times to a couple of Collingwood supporters on Twitter, and I just think that's fucking hilarious. So, good on you, Jack Ginnivan, Joe Hall, leader of the fucking sook bags. Fucking hell. And I know this isn't all Collingwood fans. I'm sure there's a lot of them that would be sitting there, having being upset that they lost, but also would be like, like the personality of him. That's why I kind of like Tom Papley, because he does that for the Swans. And I'm sure every single team has that person where you like the personality of the certain player. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't take that out of the game, by no means. And I hate when people are like, oh, his behaviour was a bit off. It's like, bro, when you're at a fucking workplace, this is their workplace, by the way, are you sitting there, well, I mean, I don't know about them, they're probably snorting coke off the fucking, in the bloody Christmas parties, people at Channel 9. So fucking, how's that for your behaviour, Joe? Do you think fucking, that's pretty shit behaviour from you? You fucking dork. Anyway, let's move on from that. She was our flog of the week. Let's, of course, now move into our tips for round 20. Only 5 rounds to go, guys, and the ladder is shaping up. Still don't know who's going to make the finals, but what a round we have coming up. So, on Friday night, we start off with Carlton versus Port Adelaide. I've gone Carlton. On Saturday, I've gone Geelong over North Melbourne. Brisbane over the Gold Coast Suns. Essendon over St Kilda. The GWS Giants over Melbourne. Fremantle over West Coast. And on Sunday, I've gone Collingwood over Richmond. The Swans over the Western Bulldogs. And then Hawthorn to beat the Crows on the last game of the round. What are you going with this week?
So on Friday night, I've went Blues over Port Adelaide. Saturday, I've went Geelong over North Melbourne. Brisbane over the Gold Coast. Essendon over St Kilda. Giants over Melbourne. Freo over the Eagles. And on Sunday, I've went Collingwood over Richmond. The Bulldogs over the Swans. And the Crows over the Hawks.
So we've gone with 2 different this week.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start all the way back at Friday night. This isn't a difference, but it is a big game. Carlton up against Port Adelaide. So both these teams going into this game, very interesting positions. Carlton haven't been in the greatest of form. They've lost 2 of their last 3 games, and their win was against North Melbourne last week, which wasn't exactly convincing. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, up and down. Who knows?
Who knows which one's going to show up?
Yeah, exactly. But the one thing Port Adelaide do have is this is at Marvel Stadium, and they have a really good record there. And on another side as well, Carlton, they're definitely going to be missing Tom Nakoning. Could also miss Mackay and Akers. We've both gone Carlton, and basically the only reason why I'm going Carlton here is because I don't trust Port Adelaide one bit. No way. I can't tip them. There's no way. I would actually consider it if it wasn't for their season of being the best of the best at times and absolutely dismal. That's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if Port Adelaide go and win this game. I wouldn't be, because I think if Port Adelaide at their best can actually go and beat Carlton here, because Carlton are down a bit at the moment. They won't be playing Tom de Koning. He's been one of the better ruckmen of the year, probably top 3. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Port Adelaide go and jag this one. I can't trust them. I can't put a tip on it. That's kind of where I'm sitting for in that game. Where are you looking at for Carlton and Port?
So the Carlton game, if Dixon can play like he did last week, kick 4 or 5 goals. But you just don't know which Dixon's going to show up.
Well, that's just like the whole Port Adelaide team, though.
It's like the whole team. Radicalier, Port Adelaide fans are scared of when he gets the ball, because he's so bloody useless with the ball. When he kicks backwards or kicks sideways, you're just afraid he's gonna turn it over. And the fact is that at the moment, Port Adelaide, their defence is just playing too high. They get a lot of goals kicked out the back.
They conceded, I think, 6 against the Tigers on the weekend.
Port Adelaide, they've probably got a better record at Marvel, but I just can't trust Port Adelaide at the moment. They're just all over the shop. You just don't know which one's going to show up.
All right, after that, we move to the Swans versus the Bulldogs. This is a game that we have tipped differently. So, looking at it, Bulldogs have been hot against the top teams. Obviously, the last couple of weeks, they've beat Carlton and the Cats, but they have had times when they've played woefully, like looking at Port Adelaide a couple of weeks ago as well. So what Bulldogs team's going to show up, I think, is the question mark here. And on the Swans side, the Swans injuries are starting to mount up, and their form the last 4 weeks has been pretty poor. They lost 3 of their past 4 games, and their win was against North Melbourne. Now, I'm going to go why I'm tipping the Swans. I actually think that was the best they've played in the last month, the Swans. And I think they really could have beaten Brisbane if it wasn't for the injuries. And I think over the past month or so, that was the best that Sydney have played. And I think they would have won that game if it wasn't for the injuries. Now, I don't want to put that as an excuse, but I do think Sydney played really well on the weekend. So I think their form is somewhat coming back. I'm actually going to go with them this week. I give them a little bit of chance. I give them a chance here. Depends on which Bulldogs team shows up, though. So if the Bulldogs' best team comes out, I think it could be a massive game. At their best, the Bulldogs, with their pressure and their quick ball movement, I think the Bulldogs will win. But I think if the Swans at their best, at the SCG as well, they've only lost 1 game this year, I give them every chance. So that's why I'm kind of going the Swans here. What do you got on the Bulldogs?
I've gone the Bulldogs because I think their defence looks better this year. Their defence looks good with Rolob out the back with Buku Kamas. I don't trust the Swans forward line with the 3 tools, and the fact is that Papley will be out. Hayward, I expect, will play, but Dane Rampy also being out could be a big thing with the fact is that they've got Norton, Darcy and Hugh Hagan. If they don't win the midfield battle, they're screwed.
Swans will slice through them if that happens.
Yeah, they'll slice through them, and they have performed well against the good sides. So I think they could cause an upset, and if they've got any chance of making the finals, they have to get a scout. Get themselves in the 8.
I think if they get in the 8, I think they're going to be very hard to knock out.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. After that, we get to the other tip that we tip differently. It's the Crows up against Hawthorn. So I've gone Hawthorn basically because if Adelaide didn't win this game, I think Hawthorn would be outright favourites to win this one. I know it's at Adelaide Oval. The Crows haven't been that good there this year. They even lost to Richmond at Adelaide Oval. So they haven't been the greatest there. In Hawthorn, they have been amazing the last 2 months. Amazing. That's one reason why I'm going for them. And 2, Hawthorn have played at Adelaide Oval twice this year, and they've lost both games by less than a goal. Hawthorn right now, second best team in the comp. I was going to say first, but Brisbane have been better than them the last month or 2. So I'm going to say Hawthorn the second best. Against the Crows, I know it's at Adelaide Oval. That's the only reason why I've even considered tipping the Crows. But also one big thing as well is Jordan Dawson will be out. Captain, their midfield depth is already tested majority of the time with him there. With him not there, I think they're going to struggle. And Hawthorn's midfield's one of their best lines. So Hawthorn get it forward. Ginnivan, Watson, who was good on the weekend as well. Dylan Moore, Connor McDonald, their smalls, get to work. I think they're going to win this one.
A lot of the reason is because of the fact is that it is at home for the Crows. I think Phil Thorpe had a down week. His second week back, his first full game. I think against that defence, he could dominate. I don't know if they'll bring back Taylor Walker. I think they need to bring him back.
Yeah.
So that's a big question mark because I think he's still reliable there. And Fogarty's been pretty good in the last month or so.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big week for the likes of Saligo, Dowling, whoever's going to be in that midfield to take over Dawson for the week. They've just got to be able to match him. And
if they can match him in the midfield and get it forward, there'll be a chance.
Yeah.
All right, guys, with that being said, that's all our tips for this week. So let's move to our AFL tipping ladder. And it is still on top, Brendan. So Brendan's on top by 6 tips right now. It was 6 last week. He still leads by Paul, but got 7. And the most important part of the tipping last week was the fact that I got 8 out of 9. I was so close to the 9th. If it wasn't for Geelong choking against the Bulldogs, well, not choking, but sucking against the Bulldogs, I would have got a full week this week. So, because of that, I've jumped from 6th, I believe, to 3rd. I've jumped all the way to 3rd on the ladder. It's an absolute massive achievement for me. I've just gone soaring through the stars into 3rd spot. Brilliant job from me. I'm still 9 tips off the pace with 5 rounds to go. So I may have to start maybe throwing a couple of roughies out there. But Brandon still leads on top. Where are you sitting? You're sitting in 9th spot. You got 7 last week, so you did okay. You jumped, I think, 1 position.
Yeah, because I lost the Essendon one.
Yeah.
Start of the week as well, which didn't help my margin, but...
Yeah, no, that's true. And another person who got 8 as well was Daniel. Right but down into 11th spot, but did really well to get 8 tips.
I'm pretty sure Daniel, I did check, tipped the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think he tipped the Bulldogs and tipped Essendon, I'm pretty sure. Looking at it, I'll have a quick look. So he tipped the Crows as well. So who did he tip? He tipped the Giants, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, Brisbane. I tipped Melbourne. Why did he tip Melbourne? Why would you tip Melbourne? He must have listened to us last week and said that I picked that as a danger game. Dumb decision. So yeah, looking at it right now, top position is Brendan, still in front by 6 tips with 5 rounds to go. Almost has it locked down. I'd almost give it to him.
Yeah.
Almost. I'm in 3rd spot, catching. Maybe. I think I'm too far off now. And Brooke is dropped right back down to bottom. She's the only person without 100 tips so far this year. That's pretty disappointing. They're on 99 right now. But with that being said, guys, let's get to our final part of the podcast, which is our AFL Fantasy Breakdown. So, of course, we try to do this every single week. Last week, probably one of my highest scores of the year. It doesn't really matter, though. It wasn't very good. 2,166 points. A couple of good performers in the weekend. We had Harry Sheasel, great performance from him. He even got the Bounty Riders votes. We had Tom Green, 120. Rosie, 100 as well. 131 to Zorko. 137 to Sam Flanders. And I put in Logan Evans from Port Adelaide as a reserve, who got 101. So I did pretty well there. And I made the right call because... Clayton Oliver, who she would have been in the team, only got 63. So I was pretty happy with all of that. But there were a lot of bad performers, and we'll start with all of them. We'll mark them all off because they were all very disappointing. Sam Walsh got 90, and he was my captain. So Dawson got 81. He was injured, so give him a little bit of a pass. Brodie Grundy, 74. Tom DeConing got injured, 61. Well, no. I think he played the rest of the game.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he got 61, but he was off like 3 or 4 times with injury, so still a bit annoying. Caldwell got 86, so he's been really good before then. So
if he didn't get the 20-minute HIA or subbed out 25 minutes left, he may have actually got a good score.
Yeah, and then Isaac Heaney, he has kind of dropped off a bit.
Yeah, well, he's only kicked 2 goals in the last month, and they were both in the Saints game, so he's just not getting the goals with the other. And he's getting the tag as well at the moment. Yeah, he only got 78. But looking at that, of course, we get to the trades for this week, and I've already had to change them a couple of times, and I think I'm going to have to change it again. So at this stage, I've got rid of Darcy Wilson. He will be gone, and I picked up Shadow Brain from the Brisbane Lions. And at this stage, I'm going to have to get rid of TDK. I picked him up a couple of weeks ago. That was a dumb decision of mine. And at this stage, I'm either going to have to go for... if I can get Rowan Marshall, I'll try and get him. I have to change my trades again. I'll try and get Rowan Marshall. Probably won't be able to get to him. If I can, I will. Tim English or Tristan Cherry really is what I'm kind of looking at right now. It has to be one of the top ruckmen. I got rid of Max Gawn because of his injury. I may be able to go and re-pick him up if he comes back this week. I'm not too sure. Yeah, he may.
But against the Giants, so I don't know if that's a really good choice. That's just going to have to be one I toss around. If I can get Rowan Marshall, I'll go for him because I think he's probably the best option. But Tristan Cherry as well has been brilliant this year, and so has Tim English. So a lot of options, but a little bit annoying because TDK has been really good this year too for a while. But that's basically all I have for you. What are you going with? So last week I got 2,294. So it was a good score. It was but not a great one. It seems like a lot of people scored well last week. Yeah. Obviously, I had Sheasel 134, Sinclair 110, Ed Richards 131. I was really happy with that one. Sarong got back into form with 123, with Tom Green with 120. I got the right captain. I picked Tristan Jerry 124, so 248, and Flanders and Zorko. There were one, and also got. Logan Evans is 101 as well. 101. Yeah. I did have to take out Hayden Young to get it, but it did work out for me. Just really.
But then I got some really bad scores. Lockie nil 69. Well, that was because he got tagged.
Yeah, by Taylor Adams.
Josh Dacos was horrible again, 77. Grundy and Heaney. And the worst one was the trade that I got in last week was Brian Myers. I was either contemplating him or Dylan Moore, and I sort of tried, let's go with Brian Myers, and he got 52.
Yeah, poor performance from him.
Sucked.
So what were your trades for this week?
So my trades this week are... So I got rid of Shawmaker, and I got Zach Taylor from the Crows.
Yeah,
that may change depending, because the first game's the Port game.
Yeah.
So if Logan Evans scores well, I might change that to get Draper back in for Shawmaker, so then I can get used to the loophole.
Yeah.
And then I got rid of Josh Dacos, and I got Errol Goulden.
Oh, so you got big
upgrade. I went for the big boy, and I need to win this week, so...
Yeah, so looking at the live ladder, actually, you're sitting in 10th spot, and you are 1 win outside the 8 with, I think it's 2 rounds to go now. I've dropped out of the race.
1 week left.
Oh, no, it is 1 week. Yes, this is the last week, so I'm gone. That's like... I need a miracle. So unfortunately, I am gone, guys. You've got to play the top second team.
Yeah, well...
You're playing Brad SCG. I am playing... I'll have to quickly look to see who I'm playing of. But looking at it right now, Shillings for Billings holds his top spot. He's got that last week after Brad's led the whole season. So he's finally stolen that back. I actually play 15th, so... What do I need? I need a win. I need everyone else to lose. And I need 2%. Alright, I'm basically calling it, guys.
You kind of wanted to just play bottom spot this week, just trying to get any chance.
Yeah.
But,
so you can still make it. You got to beat the top team.
And I need to get... Yeah, but I also need 8th in Catherine to lose, Pranov to lose, and gain another 1.7%, which I don't think I'll be able to do.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, but... Who knows?
Yeah.
Knock on wood, maybe could. Alright guys, that's basically what we have for you for the Boundary Riders podcast today. Of course, thank you for listening, thank you for watching. If you watch this on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you are listening on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars just to keep up the support. And of course, make sure to leave us a follow so you're notified on the podcast, the review every single week, and the trade videos that we'll be dropping a lot more as we're getting closer to the end of the season. But again guys, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.